Republicans seem to believe Biden's hateful rhetoric about Trump is what led the shooter, who is registered as a Republican, to attempt to unalive Trump. And by hateful rhetoric, I mean Biden saying Trump is a threat to democracy, which is a statement based on factual evidence. And I don't know about you, but when I hear damning things about a political candidate, my first instinct is to not vote for them, not try to unalive them. But I guess I'm not a Republican. I digress. So let's take a stroll down memory lane of all the actual hateful rhetoric Republicans have spewed about groups of people in hopes to incite violence to help push their political agenda. Starting off with political opponents, the Kansas Republican Party hosted a fundraiser where attendees could donate for the option to hit a body opponent bag they made to look like Biden. And speaking of unaliving attempts, in 2008, a Trump supporter attempted to unalive Democratic leaders. Cesar Sayak, who had Trump's photos and decals attacking the media all over his van, attempted to assassinate Democratic leaders, including Obama, Biden, and Clinton, via mailing pipe bombs. Sayak's lawyer even argued that Trump's rhetoric fueled his actions, and he viewed Trump as a surrogate father. And Trump's response was, a very big part of the anger we see today in our society is caused by the purposely false and inaccurate reporting of the mainstream media that I refer to as fake news. It has gotten so bad and hateful that it is beyond description. Mainstream media must clean up its act fast.
Is that a confession?
After Trump was shot at, Marjorie Taylor Greene said, "Pray for America. The left wants a civil war. They have been trying to start one for years. These people are sick and evil." Which is hilarious because on February 21st, 2023, she called for red and blue states to consider a national divorce, since the left and right cannot agree on ideology and political beliefs. Or in other words, what led to the original Civil War. And Trump's Project 2025 leader said this.
We are in the process of the Second American Revolution, which will remain bloodless if the left allows it to be.
Excuse me?
And besides Republicans threatening a civil war against Democrats, they created a war against the LGBTQ+ community, including a full-blown anti-drag crusade. Here is Marjorie Taylor Greene saying protecting your children from drag queens is not a hate crime.
It is.
And the anti-drag crusade allowed the leadway to the anti-trans movement, where Republicans encouraged people to protect women from trans women trying to use the restroom. Here is an example of Mark Robinson, who is running for governor of North Carolina, saying exactly that.
We're going to defend women in this state. That means if you're a man on Friday night, and all of a sudden Saturday you feel like a woman and you want to go in the women's bathroom in the mall, you will be arrested. But whatever God do you, protect our women.
And then, of course, we have Republicans claiming parents of trans children are child abusers and should have their children taken away. But parents aren't the only ones Republicans targeted. The Colorado Republican Party said our next policy aims to save Colorado children from progressive Democrats who want to turn more children trans by requiring teachers to use pronouns that do not make any sense and cause gender confusion.
Don't think that word means what you think it means.
But that's not all. Republicans labeled anyone who believes inclusion of the LGBTQ+ community should be taught to children as groomers. The spokeswoman of Ron DeSantis said, the bill that liberals inaccurately call Don't Say Gay would be more accurately described as an anti-grooming bill. If you're against the anti-grooming bill, you are probably a groomer, or at least you don't denounce the grooming of 4 to 8-year-old children. Silence is complicity. This is how it works, Democrats. I don't make the rules.
No sense.
Which led to Fox News saying liberals are sexually grooming elementary students. With this misinformation and hateful rhetoric, teachers and the members of the LGBTQ+ community have been harassed and labeled as groomers by conservatives. Next up, we have Republicans' hateful rhetoric towards immigrants, which started as soon as Trump announced his bid for president, when he said this.
When Mexico sends its people, they're not sending their best. They're not sending you. They're not sending you. They're sending people that have lots of problems, and they're bringing those problems with us. They're bringing drugs, they're bringing crime, they're rapists, and some, I assume, are good people.
In 2019, at a Florida rally in Panama City, Trump also made a joke about pew-pewing asylum seekers.
How do you stop these people? You can't. There's no... That's only in the panhandle you can get away with that statement.
And let's not forget about Trump's hateful rhetoric towards Muslims. In a 2015 Face the Nation episode, Trump said, well, look, we are having a problem with radicals in the Muslim group. Let's not kid ourselves, and you can say it or you don't have to say it, and maybe you won't even want to, but I have been saying it loud and strong. So if you have people coming out of mosques with hatred and with death in their eyes and on their minds, we're going to have to do something. John.
Can't say that, sir.
Republicans spread a lot of hateful rhetoric about protesters, especially Black Lives Matter protesters, going so far as passing laws allowing cars to hit protesters if they were in the way. You might think, how did it get to that point? Here is just one example. When a protester showed up to protest a Trump rally in 2016, Trump said, "I'd like to punch him in the face." And Fox and Friends shared the video while saying Donald Trump sends strong message to protesters.
Jesus.
And with this hateful rhetoric surrounding immigrants and people of color, Republicans started pushing the Great Replacement theory, suggesting Democrats are trying to diminish the influence of white people in America. Senator Ron Johnson says this administration wants complete open borders, and you have to ask yourself why. Is it really that they want to remake the demographics of America to ensure that they stay in power forever? And remember when Matt Gaetz said this?
They're tearing down Lincoln, Winston Churchill, and Frederick Douglass. So this isn't about slavery or fascism or even race. There is an attempted cultural genocide going on in America right now, and it calls for patriots to stand up and say, this is a great country. It is worthy of our pride and our defense. The left wants us to be ashamed of America so that they can replace America. I love this country, and I think that we ought to do a lot more to push back against the hate that we're seeing.
And of course, this hateful rhetoric goes hand in hand with the Republicans' attack on critical race theory, which is only taught to college students. But Republicans rebranded the phrase to mean teaching about non-white history. And Christopher F. Rufo, an American conservative activist and journalist, helps us out in understanding the motive behind this. We have successfully frozen their brand, critical race theory, into the public conversation and are steadily driving up negative perceptions. We will eventually turn it toxic as we put all of the various cultural insanities under that brand category. The goal is to have the public read something crazy in the newspaper and immediately think critical race theory. We have decodified the term and will recodify it to annex the entire range of cultural constructions that are unpopular with Americans.
I don't think you meant to say that out loud.
And now let's talk about Republicans' hateful rhetoric against women. Republicans' end goal has always been to push hateful rhetoric against women who they are unable to control. We have seen this through Trump calling Hillary Clinton a nasty woman.
To raise taxes on the wealthy. My Social Security payroll contribution will go up, as will Donald's, assuming he can't figure out how to get out of it. But what we want to do is to replenish the Social Security Trust Fund by making sure that we have sufficient resources.
And remember that time Trump tweeted, "If Hillary Clinton can't satisfy her husband, what makes her think she can satisfy America?"
Isn't that ironic?
What's the easiest way to control women than forcing them to have babies, especially in a country where a pregnancy can cause you to lose your job, force you out of school, and into medical debt? And when women stood up against taking away their rights, Republicans responded with hateful rhetoric, like Matt Gaetz saying, "How many of the women rallying against overturning Roe are overeducated and underloved millennials who sadly return from protests to a lonely microwave dinner with their cats and no Bumble matches?" And when Republicans feel women are too powerful, they will make jokes about unaliving them, like when Rep. Paul Gozer tweeted an animated video of him unaliving AOC. And when AOC very understandably was upset and called him out, he told her to relax. He was only taking part in the meme culture. And let's not forget what led Democrats to initially call out Trump for being a threat to democracy when he claimed the 2020 election was rigged with zero proof and encouraged his supporters to come to Washington, D.C. and storm the Capitol to stop the steal. And with all that hateful rhetoric about Democrats Trump had been spewing up to that point, it encouraged his supporters to violently attack the Capitol in an attempt to overthrow a fair election. Or in other words, an attempt to overthrow democracy. So no, we shouldn't tone down the rhetoric when Republicans who are admitting they are Christian nationalists
say now that I am calling America a Christian nation. And so I am. And some will say that I am advocating Christian nationalism. And so I do.
Want to turn our country into a theocratic authoritarian state, because there is a difference between rhetoric based on facts and rhetoric based on hate.